It's time for ROTD Weekend. I am back from Ecuador. What an amazing trip. I'm not even kidding. I think this was my favorite trip of all time. It is really a stunningly beautiful country. The people were so friendly. And the food was incredible in a way that I wasn't expecting. I have spent time in Mexico before, and I've had Mexican food, of course. I've spent time in Costa Rica before, and I don't know why exactly, and I hope this isn't insulting to anybody who's Ecuadorian, but I kind of just expected it to be similar to one or both of those or some combination. There definitely was ceviche, which I was expecting. It was a different variation on ceviche. They always cook their shrimp first, from what I understand, and I think some of the fish ceviche was cooked first as well. So there was a ceviche. But other than that, the thing that was like really spectacular to me was we learned very early on while we were there. We started the trip in the city of Quito, which is like 2 miles high. It's really high up on like a mountain plateau kind of up there. We learned while we were there that Ecuador doesn't really import any food. And so all of the fruits and vegetables, meats, dairy, and of course all the wonderful seafood is all from there. So, if you are having a salad, like I had a really nice take on a caprese salad. It had 3 different kinds of tomatoes on it, none of which I'd even seen before. They were like different kinds of tomatoes, all local. And like if there was fruits ever anywhere, there were blackberries and papayas and mangoes and pineapple. All of it was so fresh and like from there. And it was just beautiful. All the produce, unbelievably beautiful. In terms of the cuisine, soup plays a very big role, it seems. So one of the first things that we had, actually, our first night there, I ordered a locro soup, which is an Andean potato soup, and it had avocado in it and cilantro. It was a yellow color. They have a whole bunch of different kinds of potatoes, and they use them for different things, kind of like the tomatoes. Lots of different tomatoes. Oh yeah, that reminds me, there's like a salsa that they make from tree tomatoes. The salsa is called Aji, A-J-I. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And it uses these tree tomatoes and hot sauce kind of pureed together, but also chunky. It had 2 kinds of onion, cilantro, lime juice. Really delicious. But like different tomatoes for different purposes, different potatoes for different purposes. All the purposes are delicious, of course, too. But yeah, like I was saying, there is a lot of soup. So we spent a couple of nights in the Amazon at this really lovely lodge called the Anaconda Lodge, really small. And it's like an open air space where you're eating and they bring you food, and lunches and dinners always started with a soup appetizer, and they were delicious soups. And of course, I had that locro soup. We also got to have, because we were there in March, near Easter. Easter's, of course, next month. There's a traditional Easter soup called finesca. And I will just be honest with you, I found it delicious, but I wasn't sure what was in it. So I've looked it up. Now I'm on Wikipedia looking up finesca, and it seems that it's made from ground fig leaf, pumpkin, and 12 different kinds of beans and grains with salt cod cooked in milk. So, and yeah, and there were some hard-boiled eggs in there too. Yes, this is exactly what we had. Oh, and there were little mini empanadas in it as well. And, oh yes, I forgot about this. The locro, that potato soup, had it too. They have this really delicious queso fresco in Ecuador, and they put cubes of it in all kinds of soups. We had it in the locro, in the finesca, and I also had it in like a pureed spinach soup at one point. And the little cubes of cheese get kind of soft around the edges and warm. So they're a little bit melty, but also have this really like satisfying texture. Really amazing. So Yes, I had wonderful food in Ecuador. Like I said, we were in Quito a little bit, and then we were in the Amazon near Tena a little bit, and then we went to the Galapagos for a few nights, which was really one of the most beautiful, surreal, magical places I've ever been. I'm just like in love and can't wait to go back. Oh, and I'll just tell you this because, I mean, if you're listening to me and you're like, oh, I want to go to Ecuador, what we learned on our way back was really cool. We flew on Copa Airlines and they always fly through Panama because that's where their hub is. And they have a deal on right now that if you want to stay in Panama for a few days, up to 7 days, it's no extra cost. So your flights are going to almost for sure connect through Panama. But if you want to add on a little bit of a trip and see Panama for a couple days, you can do that in the middle of your way to Ecuador, or I guess anywhere else that Copa Air flies through Panama. So that is pretty cool. I highly recommend Ecuador, though. What a beautiful, delicious, friendly, wonderful place for a vacation. Now, speaking of beautiful, friendly, and wonderful, it was my brother Mike's birthday this week. And since I've been away and haven't had a chance to do a new interview, I thought it would be really nice in honor of my amazing brother, who is, you know, a great dad, a great brother, a great son, a great husband, a great cook, and a great volleyball coach. Actually, also, he has so many wonderful talents. He was on the show, over a year ago, telling us about a very special recipe. And so I thought this would be a great time to reshare that conversation with you. So this now is my conversation with my beloved brother, Mike Pittman. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, sis.
It's great to see you and talk to you. And, well, we both know food was a huge part of our lives growing up and careers. Your food background is extensive. Can you fill us in on your history in this cooking world?
Yeah, so I was thinking about it. It wasn't that long. I mean, I'm 46 now, and I think so. I started when I was 11. So yeah, only about 35 years. I think I've been doing this in all aspects of the definition of the food and beverage industry, I guess. Started in, family businesses, learning the ropes through that, branching out and buying my own business in my early 20s. Learning a lot those years, jumping into more family businesses as we went, met my wife, had a family while still doing family businesses. Me and my wife buying a family restaurant and running that, and now we run a golf course, kind of doing the same thing. So yeah, it's kind of been my life and it's following me around right now.
I know, we can't escape. I mean, I went off to do a degree in linguistics and here I am talking about food.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of find myself always going back there because it's something that you're knowledgeable and you know you're good at. Even if you want to get out, you always want to have your input heard, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's a little bit of that with my job now at the golf course, helping out Ange on her side, and I still like it. It's still fun.
Yeah, and there's something about it too. Like I actually don't know how you feel about it, but it was such a huge part of our lives growing up with our parents having restaurants. Like our mutual parents that we have together having restaurants, that the talk about food and about business was so continuous and woven into our lives that it's something that I still get excited talking about. It's almost like a groove. Like, oh, we're talking about food now? Eyes light up. Like, I could do this. And I feel like you have that too, right?
Yeah, I mean, we got exposed to it very early, right? And I strongly believe that most children, young adults getting into the workforce, whatever you want to call it, should start in the restaurant industry. I feel there's so much to learn just that you can carry over into your own household. It's like you're part of a team. You gotta pull your weight. All that kind of stuff will help you in life and anything that you do. So it's a very good first job for people, and we had no choice, so we were thrown right into that. So
it's true. We did not have choice, but no, you're right. I feel like not only did we learn cooking skills, which of course you use all the time, even if you're not staying in the professional world, the teamwork and then just service industry stuff in general. Like that ability that I know you and I both have to like put a smile on your face even when you're not happy and say, "Hi there, how are you today?" And right?
Yeah,
But
you get really good at that. Yeah.
it's a very important skill that I find I use not on this podcast. No, like all the time. You walk into a situation, you're having a bad day, and you have to convince somebody of something or talk to somebody, and I just have this ability to switch into not my own mood and talk in that way. And I think that's part of what came from more the serving tables than the cooking part.
Yeah, I mean, like being friendly is a huge part of running a restaurant. I'm big on first impressions, and if you're friendly, you come to a place, it's clean, people are friendly right away. I mean, your first impressions are good, right? So your experience has already started off good, and then the food quality and all that kind of stuff will follow. But there's always that first impression that people will remember, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if they do have an incident. I mean, nothing's perfect, right? Everyone's not always happy with everything that they get, but at least they'll have that to take away, right?
Yeah, no, it's true. Oh yeah, and there's nothing that makes me reluctant or suspicious when I get into a restaurant, like there being like rudeness or lack of friendliness in that greeting. Like somebody greets you and takes you to a table, your server comes over and doesn't say, "Hi, how are you?" It just says, "Get you a drink" or something, and you're just like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah, you start deducting like gratuity percentages right away, right?
But something like that.
Yeah.
But no, it's so true. We learned so much from that industry. And now you cook at home a ton too, right?
Love it. Yeah, so I stopped enjoying cooking for other people in restaurants and stuff. So now I have more of an office salesperson, a business development kind of position, which is great. But I've learned so much, and I do love cooking for the family, and they love what I cook. So it works out really well. And Ange really loves it when I cook. So
yeah. You may not believe this, but Marty is actually making us dinner tonight. That does not happen very often. Awesome. I am very excited. Yep, he did the grocery shopping and that. So yes, I know how she must feel. What a treat that is when somebody else does the planning and the cooking. Right? It's both.
Yeah.
All. Well, and
I do my best pressure. My best cooking and stuff I kind of do under pressure when it's like, okay, well, you have like some main ingredients that you want to use. And then it's like, what am I going to do with this? And then you just kind of just come up with something. Those are usually like, we start sitting here and eating and being like, this is the best I've ever had. Like, like Carter will say that or Brooke will say that. And then it's just, I love doing that kind of cooking, where it's just kind of spontaneous. It's just throw something together, mix these spices together, see if it's good, whatever. Except
they say this is the best burger I've ever had or the best. And you like didn't write it down and you're like, shoot.
Oh, how do I do that?
Well, you're never getting it again. So enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't write anything down that I'm doing. Like, I'm not that kind of, I just kind of wing it. And I kind of know what flavors we all like and whoever I'm cooking for, kind of what I'm going for, So I just kind of, we have good memories too. I mean, doing what we did, serving, whatever it is, planning events, which is what I do now. You need to have a good memory. You need to be paying attention to detail, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. So, Mike, have you brought a surprise recipe for me today?
I did, and this was such a hard decision. And then just a little how I got here was kind of funny because I had some ideas as I kind of bounced off mom and dad, and then I was like, what? No, that's not even a recipe. That's not even what she's asking for. Like, this isn't even what we're talking about. So then I was like, okay, well, let's rethink this. So then I was like, well, we've been a part of like 7 or 8 different restaurants or businesses, right? And what was very consistent with all those? And then I was like, okay, well, what next? What when people come over and I say, hey, what do you guys want to have? And what's something that's always suggested? So then it brought me to, and I was going to see if you can guess.
I'm going to guess. I hope I'm right.
I know you're going to guess.
Is it Alfredo sauce?
No, you're wrong.
Caesar salad?
Wrong. No, you're in the right country, kind of.
Okay, no, I don't know.
Oh, it's our long family pizza dough recipe that I used at Meteor Mike's. I think so. I don't even know how we came up with this. And you know what? This is what I think happened. So basically, here's a 6-ingredient pizza dough recipe that we're going to tell you how to make today. And the main reason why I chose this is what we just talked about, but also because we just ordered pizza the other day. It was $75 and skipped the dishes. And I'm like banging my head against the wall, being like, oh my God, I could do this for like, $10. And then I thought, going back to what we served good and what I know I do good. So everybody always wants pizza. So, and then I thought, you know what? It's only 6 ingredients. It's super easy to do. Once people do it, it'll change the way they think about pizza in their household, serving to their family. I think they'll even change the way they order pizza. They won't order pizza anymore. They'll designate a pizza making day, do this, put it in their freezers, even going to the supermarket, buying the frozen crust. I mean, so I think this recipe was originally started by mom, right? She knew I was buying a little pizza stand in West Hawk Lake, Manitoba, served hot dogs, ice cream, and they had a little pizza oven in the back. So we wanted to serve pizza. So I'm sure it was mom kind of, preparing, trying to find something for me that's easy to make because she knows I was 22, 23, right? Knowing what I was like back then, and then I think she just found something simple, that I could do in the back, super easy. And it ended up just being a hit. It became the main thing that we served at Meteor Mike's, which was that little pizza stand that I had there. We eventually brought that recipe to the Falcon Lake Deli, started doing it in the wintertime there. We served it in the wintertime at Pittman's on 44, and we still make it at home to this day. It's funny because I posted a couple pictures of pizza not too long ago, and my third employee that I ever hired in my life at that little hot dog stand reached out to me on social media and says, "Hey, Mike, is that still the same recipe?" And they still use it because he actually asked me one time. I still remember this. He's like, "Mike, do you mind if I tell my mom?" Because I had him making the dough in the back. His little kid, just first job, right? Showed him how to make the dough. So he got really good at it. And then he asked me if he can give the recipe to his mom. And so they still make this pizza dough to this day.
Wow.
So we're going to do that.
I have so many things I want to say, but I think it's hilarious and wonderful and just so our family that you were 22, 23 with this little hot dog stand that has a pizza oven. And nobody thought, let's just buy pizzas or let's just buy dough. Like, of course.
Well, no, I'm sure that totally, I think we sampled some. I think we got some samples and it was just like, you can go buy this at Sobeys or it just wasn't like, mom, she's like, we got to do homemade. We got to, watch our profits, we got to do all that kind of stuff. Right. Mm-hmm. So, and she knew that it needed to be easy for me because it's a lot. Like my first business, I got kids that have never done anything in food and beverage before, right? Yeah. So that was a challenge. So it needed to be easy. It needed to be something that I can do in the back while I'm watching the front at the same time, kind of thing, right?
And I just want to say, because I know that most of the people listening to this are in the United States. You said that your pizza for your family of 4 the other day was $75. So I just want to call out when people say things are more expensive in Canada, they really are more expensive in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Well, yeah, that's over $100 US, right, to us. So, if we're spending, if it was $75 US to us, that's over $100. But it's got to be $105.
Yeah, so it's probably more. It's probably $55 US. I'm not doing the math very well, but it's still more than if I buy pizza for the 4 of us. I mean, I can get pizza for $25 for the 4 of us. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
but then you're looking at the quality. So
when
I say I'm spending $75, it's from the best place in town, right? Mm-hmm. Which when we're eating out, we're like, okay, well, let's eat out. Let's not just go to this place because they're giving away their pizza. Well, what are you eating then, right? Yeah. We want it to be good. We love pizza. We eat it a lot. The kids love mine the best. So we often are reverting to doing this and freezing crusts and making pizza.
And I love that this is freezable. So tell me, 6-ingredient pizza, where do you start with making this pizza dough?
Okay, so first off, what I'll do is I'll just grab a medium-sized mixing bowl. And then I usually start with the dry ingredients. So then I'll get 2.5 cups of flour. Okay. And I've even experimented with whole wheat flour, a mixture of all-purpose and whole wheat. Just to make it healthier, whatever you're doing. It works. It does work at the best with just all-purpose white flour. And then I would throw in 1.5 tablespoons of instant yeast.
So that's the quick rise bread machine yeast kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. And then 1 teaspoon of salt.
Okay.
And then I'll just mix that together. And then then you'll need a medium-sized measuring cup that has at least more than, about 2 cups would be efficient. You'll need 1.5 cups of warm water. So often I use not hot water, but not lukewarm water, kind of hot tap water even, but not burning. You don't want to burn yourself, but just it needs to be nice and warm. It really likes it warm. And then I would do 1 good tablespoon of honey. Now, this recipe, when we made it back then, used to call for sugar as part of the dry ingredients. Now, I recently cut that out, and just because we don't like having sugar, where we're trying to cut out as much sugar as we can. So then I just make sure that it's 1 good tablespoon of honey, just to compensate for that lack of sugar that you're not putting in anymore. And then I would, in that measuring cup, and then do 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And then I would just mix it all together, try to melt. It depends what kind of honey you're using. I use liquid honey. I've used cream honey. You just have to melt everything together, right?
I'm going to say, because it's another, I don't know if creamed honey is just a Canadian thing or what, but in one of my TikTok videos, the honey dill sauce. When I did the honey dill sauce on TikTok, in my little blurb, I say like liquid honey. And so many people are like, what's liquid honey as opposed to solid honey? And they're just like, I'm like, oh, maybe people don't have creamed honey here.
Yeah.
So if people are listening and don't know what Mike's talking about, well, you're using the liquid honey, but not contrasting it with some other weird thing. It's just normal honey. Normal honey is
if you have a solid honey and it's microwavable, I would just microwave it, warm it up, get it to a liquid state, and then add it to your water and your olive oil.
Okay.
Mix it all up really good. You can whisk it if you want to, spoon, fork, whatever you mix it with. And then I dump it right into the mixing bowl. And then I'll take a spatula. I won't dig my hands in there right away. I'll take the spatula and just around the edges, I'll just kind of fluff it all up together just so all the liquid looks like it's gone and it's starting to absorb into the flour. And then once that happens, then I'll kind of just start kneading it very lightly with my hands and just kind of getting all the ingredients around the bowl. Now, you don't want it to be sticky and you don't want it to be like overloaded with flour. So I will have the flour close by when I'm doing this. And if it is starting to get sticky, I'll just like sprinkle it with some more and just so it's not sticky. And then once it's like coated like lightly, almost like you dipped it in like icing sugar or something, it has like a white coating of flour.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put more flour on the counter, and then I'll just start kneading it really good on there. And then you'll get rid of all the flour and again nice and then again you don't want it to be sticky because you're going to be putting it into a plastic bag and letting it rise or a plastic whatever you have. I put it on a tray covered with plastic wrap, works as well. But anyway, you don't want it to stick to the plastic after. So you want the dough so after you're kneading it into the size of about a bowl, like a cereal bowl, maybe, right? And then you want it to just let it rest after you've kneaded it. And then you want to just sprinkle it with a little bit more flour, just so it has like that coating of whiteness, almost like you just sprinkled it on. Put it into a bag or have it covered for about 20 minutes. And then you're going to let it rise. And then you're going to put it into the cooler and you're done.
Okay, at what stage in there would you freeze it if you were going to freeze it?
Okay, so I've done experiments freezing it in the ball. You could do that. It just takes longer to thaw out when you want to use it, and then you have to roll it out, and it does take longer to thaw out. And once it does thaw out, it doesn't roll out as easily as it does when it's fresh, when you just made it. So when it's warm and it's just rising, after it's been cooled in the fridge, it's still easier to roll out and easier to work with when it hasn't been frozen yet. The frozen stage is what I usually do is I'll make I've done lots of these, so I could probably make 6 or 7 in about 20 minutes. And then I'll oil some pizza pans and I'll put a little bit of cornmeal on top. And maybe even we have a pizza spice that we use that we like to sprinkle around. So I'll put that on the pan and I'll have those ready. And I'll roll out the pizzas after they've risen and cooled in the fridge. I will then roll them out onto the pans and then we'll cover them with saran wrap and we'll put them in the freezer and freeze them that way. So that when we want to pull them or use them, we just pull them out like moments before we're about to put them into the oven, put our cheese on top, our sauce and everything, and right into the oven and got our frozen pizza.
So you freeze them on the pans and leave them on the pans?
Yeah, they're frozen on the pans. Your pans are in the freezer, and they're just like having a frozen pizza on a pan. You're literally taking it out of the freezer, putting it on your counter, putting sauce, cheese, toppings right into your oven, and you have homemade pizza. And you don't thaw it or anything first. It's in the time that you don't have to. I mean, if you have time to let it thaw, yeah, it's going to be nice and fluffy when you put it into the oven, thawed out. It's going to be more fluffy for sure. It's been frozen, and you put it in there. It's a little bit more dense. It's more like bread, right? Often we at home we have time to do it fresh, right? So often we'll do the dough, we'll make it fresh, and then it gets really fluffy and really good. That's the best way to do it. I just want to back up and make sure that I understand the steps. So you mix the dough up, then you knead it for a while till it's like the size of a cereal bowl. Then you dust it with flour and you just leave it on the counter uncovered for a little while. Is that what you're doing? See, we have these little plastic bread bags that we use. You can find them, almost like you would be putting your produce in at the grocery store, but a little bit thicker. So I don't know where you can get them. But anyway, I'd put the pizza dough in there. What I usually do is I try to trap some air in there, and I'll twist the dough so that when you put it on the counter, and often I hope it's a sunny day because I like to put it in the counter in the sun because it really rises better there. But I'll spin it around, try to get some air in there, and then fold the bag opening underneath so it looks like a bubble with your dough inside. Okay. And then it rises really good in there. And then it doesn't stick. Like often I've done it where I didn't get enough air in there and the plastic kind of falls because there wasn't enough air. And then if the dough didn't have enough flour, the plastic kind of sticks to your dough and then you're trying to peel it off later, it's fine. You can cut it off or whatever, but it's just another step, right? That makes sense. Oh, and so if I don't have the bread bag, so when I'm making normal bread recipes, what I often do is put the dough in a bowl,
covered with plastic wrap and I stick it like in the microwave where like
Yeah.
not turned on, but just so
Yeah.
you do that. And then you're rising it for like an hour or how long does
No,
it?
I would say about 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If it's doubled in size, that's probably good enough because this I kind of modified this recipe to make it more individual pizzas. Actually, the original recipe that had the sugar that we called for was actually it had more flour for a bigger pizza because we had bigger pans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to modify this one a little bit. This is why I experimented the other day with pizza at home just to see what the proper ingredients were, and this made a nice, good size. Now the nice thing about this is if your family likes like a thicker crust, well, this is already, the size of a little bit bigger than a cereal bowl now. You just have to roll it out a little bit to make it fit your pan, and then you
Mm-hmm.
got more of a thicker crust.
Mm-hmm.
If they like a thinner crust, well, then you just roll it out thinner,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And often I'll cut off the edges and I'll roll those and I'll braid those into little breadsticks. I'll roll it with cheese
Mm.
and some garlic and some pepper, and then cut them into little strips, and I'll braid the bread, let them rise in the oven under warm or whatever, and then you got breadsticks as a little appetizer with some marinara sauce or something like that. So that's always
Mm.
fun. But then at least you have like a thinner crust option as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, wait.
Yeah.
I have more questions. Okay, so
Okay.
it doubles on the counter in the sunshine if possible, and then you said you put it in the cooler. What is that step?
Yeah. Yeah. Because we just want to, I think more, I'm not an expert on this, don't get me wrong, but I think that'll stop the rising process. You don't want it to rise anymore because then it'll get too thin. It'll be too easy to roll almost. You want it to have a little bit of texture still to it. I
Mm.
think that's the right word.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you want it to stop the rising process, which is why I used to put it into the cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pull it out of the cooler. It's cool already. It's easy to work with. It's still fresh because
Mm-hmm.
it was just made, right? Super easy to roll out when any size you want. You can even take this and cut it into fours and do calzones, right? Because
Mm.
they're in little triangles. You roll out your triangles, you fill up the middle, you roll up your dough, and now you got little calzones too. Like it's very versatile.
How long is it in the cooler for?
Whenever I've left it overnight, as long as it's covered and it can't dry out.
Uh-huh.
I've left them overnight. I've left them for 2 or 3 days.
Mm.
Obviously, they're easiest to work with the earlier you can
And
get them
like an
rolled out.
hour would be about a normal amount of time, or like what's the
Yeah, I
minimum?
think so. Yeah, that would
Yeah.
work as long as it has a full cooling. Like you want it to stop rising, right?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, and then so like I said earlier to you off the mic, I was like, I'm big on first impressions, right? So when we first opened this it was called Meteor Mike's little ice cream stand to serve pizza. I was big on first impressions, so you know what it's like when you open a pizza box and everyone's excited, you just phoned it and everyone's hungry, and it's like opening a Christmas present almost.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like there it is, right? So
Yeah.
everybody loves that. So I thought, well, our pizzas are homemade, they're good already. Let's think of another way to kind of wow people. So then what I started to do is I started to roll the dough out a little bit bigger than the size of my pan, right? And then I would fold the dough over and I'd put it onto the pan and unfold it onto the pan so it'd have a little bit of a hangover, right? I would trim the hangover so that there was just a little bit of a hangover. And I made you a video, which I told you about, and I'll send it to you if you can
Yeah.
put it on your website. But what I used to do is I used to braid the crust. So I used to go around in a circle, and all I was doing was folding the edges over
Mm-hmm.
on the pan as
Mhm.
I spun it.
Mm-hmm.
But when it was baked, it looks like somebody actually braided the crust. So now when you're opening this pizza, it looked like you had this braided homemade style like crust that you find somewhere Europe or something. I don't know, right? And it kind of became the thing. So now it's like every pizza I make, I have to braid the crust. And so yeah, it's super easy. Again, this whole thing is super easy. This whole process, and it's delicious. That's the best part. You can feed your family. Like these are big pieces of pizza you're talking. So it's like
Mhm.
you're gonna have leftovers for lunches the next day, which is like the best part about having pizza or ordering pizza or making pizza. And it's super easy. And yeah, you can make other meals out of it with it too. So
And then you bake these on just metal baking sheets, right? No pizza
yeah, so
stones or anything like that.
yeah, so actually, I forgot a portion. So what I would do after you have it rolled out, it's so whether you're putting it into the freezer for storage or if you are about to use it, I will brush it with olive oil and then I'll cover it for the freezer. I forgot to
Mhm.
mention that part, and I'll do the same thing as if I'm going to use it right away. We often that pizza spice, I'll put that on the crust by itself. We'll use some of Ange's tomato sauce that I think she just told you about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
We'll do that, and then I'll brush the edges of the crust because you want those to turn nice and brown or a golden brown, right? So the pictures I'm going to send to you, I have some finished product we just made last week in our oven, and we didn't do it on convection, we just did it on regular oven so that most people can relate. And then I've also, my favorite is actually I have a smoker in the backyard, and I love smoking the pizzas, and that's the way we love having it. The best, like when it's minus 30 up in Canada here, it's not It's not
Minus
ideal to be
30,
barbecuing us minus 30.
minus 30 Celsius, minus 30 Celsius.
Yes, Canadian. Okay, let me change. When it's freaking cold, you don't want to be outside barbecuing. I've done it. It's not fun. But it is the best way to cook pizza, I think. It's in a smoker barbecues. But if you don't have that, you just throw it in the oven. I wouldn't recommend using the convection, even if you do have that. Sometimes with that airflow will cause big bubbles in the dough,
Mm.
which sometimes will cause a hole, and now your pan is all your crust is broken, basically, right? So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would
yeah.
just throw it. I would set a timer. So in the oven, I would set a timer, depending on like if you're loading it with toppings, and then, like this is a thick pizza, it may vary in time, right?
Hmm.
But I will do like a 450 temperature oven, as hot as you can go, and then I'll set a timer for about 7 minutes, and I'll spin it halfway. Another 7 minutes. If you want, you can take it off the pan right onto the oven grill if you're brave. If not,
Hmm.
you can just leave it on the pan. But I will move it around the oven occasionally,
Hmm.
especially if you have two or three in there. I will rotate to make sure everything's getting cooked evenly.
That's perfect. And so you think it takes about like 15, 20 minutes usually?
Yeah, I mean it's really fresh dough. So when it's on bake and the heat's coming from the bottom, right? Most pizza ovens cook from the top down, right, on a stone. So then it generally cooks through. When you're baking it from the bottom, I believe.
Hmm.
So your bottom of your crust will get a lot darker than the top. If you have the space, I would start your pizza off on the bottom, get the bottom nice and brown and the edges nice and brown, and then if you had to, you could always broil it on the top shelf for
Mm.
just a few minutes. I would maybe turn the temperature down a little bit and just stand there and watch it though, because it could go fast, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
When you broil. But if you just wanted to get that, the bubbling on the cheese or the crispiness on the cheese that we all love, that's the way to do that. You don't want to leave it in there by itself.
I love it. This is so fantastic. And I don't think you have done a smoked pizza for me yet. So next time I'm in
No,
Manitoba, I want one.
it really is, and like Carter loves like the margarita style where it's just the homemade tomato sauce, the mozzarella, fresh mozza, and the basil. Like and then you get the charcoal and stuff of the smoking and the taste. Oh, it's so good.
That sounds amazing. I
Yeah.
can't wait to try it. And I'm going to make this dough recipe. I'd forgotten that I wasn't really part of the family business when you guys were doing pizzas, I don't think. So
No.
yeah, but
But yeah, we served it at literally every restaurant that I was a part of, other than like I think my early years at the Pierogi Patch. Like we probably didn't even have it then, right?
no.
But from Meteor Mike's on, we did serve it in every establishment that we were a part of in some capacity.
Well, it's super exciting, and I'm going to make this dough for everybody here. Thank you so much for doing this with me today, Mike.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Great idea.
I told you, my brother's great and such good ideas. Those pizza dough rounds ready to go for a quick special dinner on a weekend like tonight. You have got to give it a try. Thank you so much, Mike, and I hope you're having a great birthday weekend. Now, as I said, I am back from Ecuador, and that means I am back to work and doing some recipe testing this week, of course. So you might remember just recently I was telling you about those pulled chicken sandwiches with the really, really easy coleslaw. It's the one that uses Caesar salad dressing as the main ingredient. Well, other than the cabbage, of course. So that is on the pulled chicken sandwiches, but it didn't occur to me that that is really a great standalone recipe on its own, like 3 ingredient, super easy coleslaw, and I didn't take a picture of it by itself. And so this week, I guess I'm not exactly testing that coleslaw recipe, but I am photographing it, and I'll take a video making it too, just so I have that like standalone video of that. And I'm also doing this thing. I can't remember if I told you about the beginning of this yet or not. What I really want is to be able to have a seasoning blend that makes guacamole really, really quick. I always have avocados. My kids love avocados. And sometimes I just want to mash up an avocado and like dive into it with some tortilla chips and not be chopping up tomatoes and onions and garlic, cilantro, like doing all the stuff. You know what I mean? And so I want a seasoning blend that kind of brings a lot of those flavors, but that I can just shake out of a container. So I am working on the guacamole seasoning blend this week. In particular, it's going to have lime zest in it, and lime zest has moisture. So what I want to be testing is if I can have the lime zest in there without it, creating like a mold risk or anything like that. How do I dry that out and make that work safely and be delicious? So those are the things that I'm working on this week. As to what is going live this week, I have put myself into quite the conundrum about this. So I told you about that easiest 3-ingredient coleslaw a minute ago. What I didn't mention was that it is actually going live this week. Also, we have, of course, the recipe already written up because it's the same one as for those pulled chicken sandwiches. And we know all the information about making it. We just need the pictures. So I am going to be doing those pictures really quickly, and then you'll be able to already get to that easiest coleslaw recipe that is going up on Cook the Story. And then the other thing we have going live this week is over on the Cookful. It is smoked chicken breasts. You know, we're at the end of March and we are thinking about grilling more and more using those smokers. Hey, Mike, I'm still thinking about you. You know, my brother loves to do smoked meats of various kinds, so he will like this as well. That is going live on the Cookful this week. As to what I'm telling you about this week on the podcast, you've got some more grilling coming up, some grilled beef ribs. There is a really unique and delicious garlic bread recipe coming. I'm going to be talking about hummus and some different uses for it. Oh, really tasty chimichurri steak and rice bowls. And, oh, those smoked chicken breasts. I'm going to be telling you about that this week as well. Lots of delicious food on this podcast. If you are not already subscribed, make sure that you are. Whatever podcast app you like to listen to, go on it on your phone and search for Recipe of the Day and hit subscribe or follow. And then you'll get me in your feed every single day. And if you are on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of the apps that let you rate and review, make sure you leave it 5 stars and a little comment about why you like the show would be really appreciated. That helps other people find this podcast too. I want to say a big thank you and happy birthday to my baby brother, Mike Pittman, and a big thank you to you for listening. I am Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great weekend. Let's get cooking.